therapeutic credentialing, I applied to and was accepted into a master's program in clinical mental health counseling. However, I realized that once I began that program, I would be unable to both serve as your minister and undertake my studies. There's probably not a good time for a minister to leave a congregation, and for me, there is never a good time for me to step down as was his minister. But after deferring for 2 years, I think it's time. I've informed our standing committee and other leaders of my intention to resign in the spring, so I may begin studies this fall. As you can tell, it breaks my heart to make this decision, as even though I am embarking on a big life change, nothing will change my deep respect and love for all of you. I make this announcement now, so we have ample time to celebrate our almost decade of shared ministry together and to resolve whatever needs resolving. There's already talk of a fabulous party. Count me in. WUS is in an excellent place right now, growing in numbers and in spirit, positioned well to draw excellent ministers. The Unitarian Universalist Association offers many supports and resources for congregations in transition. You'll be well taken care of. It's going to be okay. The congregation is also blessed by incredible leadership. Before I yield the pulpit to Standing Committee Co-Chair Gordy McIntosh, I want to thank you for what we've experienced over the past 8.5 years together and all the good things that are happening now. Thankfully, we don't have to say farewell quite yet, but when the time comes, it will be with tremendous gratitude and love. Thank you. Standing ovations are rare in this congregation. That means a lot. Thank you. Gordy?
Is this on? There we go. I'm Gordy McIntosh, the chair of the church's governing body, known as the Standing Committee, for those of you who aren't familiar. 9 years ago, I was on the search committee that brought Reverend Heather to Winchester. And I knew at that time that this time would come eventually, but I'm really not ready to say goodbye, Heather. In Unitarian Universalism, we conduct a search for and call our settled ministers. The process takes about a year, and in the meantime, we hire an interim minister for up to 2 years to discern where we are and where we are going as a congregation. Kind of a reassessment. The Standing Committee will be putting together a transition team to hire an interim minister. This is done with the advice and guidance of our national and regional staff at the UUA, the Unitarian Universalist Association. This process should be completed before church ends for the summer, and we will keep the congregation informed of the progress. Members of the Standing Committee will be available during coffee hour and in the parlor during coffee hour after today's service to answer questions, and additional times will also be made available going forward. Also, there will be plenty of opportunities to celebrate Heather's time with us and give her an awesome send-off. Now, let us open our hearts and minds to the spirit of worship.
I don't know about you, but I need a deep breath. Let's take a deep breath together. How about one more? We come this day, bearing witness to our shared life together in the eternal rhythms of connection and change. We come this day grateful for the gift of life, blessings received with each day's dawning and every night's fall. We come this day called to serve needs greater than our own, called to communion with stranger and friend who chooses this place and this path with us. Come then in curiosity, in gratitude, and in joy. Come, let us worship together.
I now invite Otto and Dan Spencer to come forward to light our chalice. Our light is the light of the sun, keeper of all we love. Our light is the light of the earth, provider of sustenance. Our light is the light of all living things, life precious like our own. Our light is the light of each of us, bound together in need and hope. Our light is the light of the cosmos, keeper of all we know. Now please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing hymn number 298 in the gray hymnal, Wake Now My Senses. Thank you.
I would like to invite all those who are young and young at heart to come forward for a story. Welcome. Maybe not that. Maybe down on the bottom step, just so everybody can see me. That's okay. All right, come on up, come on up. Nobody else can see me if you sit there. Can you sit down, please?
I can see you.
Piper, I need you to sit down, please. Maybe, okay. All right, welcome. Have a seat, Olson. All right, so who remembers a couple weeks ago when I talked to you all about the special spark of magic that we all have inside of us? Does everybody remember that? Do you remember how I said that magic helps make the impossible possible? Yeah, well, it does. If you don't remember, it definitely does, okay? You don't even remember what day it is today. So how could you remember what happened a couple weeks ago, right? So when I called it magic, that kind of made it sound easy, right? I mean, that's how we think of magic. You wave a wand, you snap your fingers, maybe you wiggle your nose, or maybe you're all too young to know that one. But anyway, you do that and something happens, right? It's easy. The truth is, real magic is not easy. Real magic it takes practice. So I want you to raise your hand if you know how to tie your shoes. Okay. Oh, look, there's a bunch of grown-ups out there that don't know how to tie their shoes yet. We need to help them out. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so you're... Mm-hmm. You can tie a knot, because everybody's on their own journey and trying to figure it out as they go along, right? So when you started to learn to tie, everyone who knows how to tie their shoes, when you started to learn, you did it right out the gate. First thing, perfect, right? No? You had to try. You had to practice a little bit?
I watched it on YouTube.
Okay. Okay.
I learned how to make that knot.
All right, listen up, because I've got more questions for you. Are you ready? Okay. Who here knows how to button a button? Grown-ups, I hope I'm seeing most hands out there. Okay. So that, of course, went perfectly. First thing, when you were, 2, you said, I'm going to button a button, and boom, you did it. No. Now, when I first tried to button a button, and that was a long time ago, but I remember being frustrated because it was hard. It was hard at first. It took a lot of practice. Okay, so here's one more question. Are you ready? Okay, assistants, I need your help over here. All right, so I have one more question for you. Who here knows how to ride a bike? Awesome. And now here's my question. When you did that, you just hopped on, rode off into the sunset, no training wheels, no help, first time, right? No. Oh, wow. Well, you are the exception for sure. So here's my point in asking you all of these questions. Hey, Otto, here's my point in asking all of these questions, okay? When you were learning to ride a bike, or tie your shoes, or button a button, did you do these things just because, or were they things that were going to be helpful and important to you? They were going to be helpful, right? Hold on. Well, there you go. Was it important to learn? Yeah. And it's important. That learning, those things, they're important to you, right? There was a really famous person. He was actually our 26th president, and he did a lot of really cool things. And he also said a lot of really cool things. And one important thing he said is that nothing worth doing is ever easy. He didn't say this, but I'm saying it takes practice. It takes time and it takes practice. So buttons and bikes and tying are important things that you need to practice to do. And we can do those hard things and many others, and we can do them well with commitment and with practice, right? And maybe that's what, please don't do that, Piper. Maybe that's what makes us feel magical, right? Maybe the magic is in the practice. Maybe it's in the trying hard and failing, and then getting up and trying again. What do you think? All right, let's join in singing the children and teachers to religious education. The words are in your order of service.
We now come to the centering time in the service, settling in body and spirit, first through words and then ritual, kindling of the light, a time to light a candle of personal joy, sorrow, or concern here in the sanctuary, at the candle table, or at home. If you would like a candle brought to you here in the pews at that time, please raise your hand. After we kindle the light, we'll be together in a time of shared silence, out of which we will sing hymn number 318 in the gray hymnal, We Would Be One. The words are printed, will appear on your screen in the live screen. We begin with a meditation by Cardinal John Dearden. It helps now and then to step back and take a long view. The kingdom is not only beyond our efforts, it is beyond our vision. Nothing we do is complete, which is a way of saying that the kingdom always lies beyond us. No statement says all that could be said. No prayer fully expresses our faith. No set of goals and objectives includes everything. This is what we're about. We plant the seeds that one day will grow. We water seeds already planted, knowing that they hold future promise. We lay foundations that will need further development. We provide yeast that produces far beyond our capabilities. We cannot do everything, but there's a sense of liberation in realizing that. This enables us to do something and to do it very well. It may be incomplete, but it is a beginning, a step along the way, an opportunity for grace to enter and do the rest. We may never see the end results, but that is the difference between the master builder and the worker. We are workers, not master builders, ministers, not messiahs. We are prophets of a future, not our own. And let us now kindle the light.
Today's reading is called A Letter to Planet Earth by Jason Cook, and this is part 1. Dear Planet Earth, I've promised you, Earth, a letter. But what do I say? We're long past the point where I or you or anyone who reads this letter needs to hear about climate change and the fact that time is ticking. We know that wildfires, floods, hurricanes, air pollution, hotter temperatures are becoming more frequent, upsetting your delicate balance. And some of us have done our best to support practices and legislation that help. But how can our brains even hold the full gravity of this situation? The letter continues. I'll start by scratching some words onto this paper to say we're sorry. Sorry that it often feels like too much to hold on a daily basis while we try to do all the other things in what we call our lives, while forgetting at the same time that if it were not for you, there would be no life for us, no trips over great oceans, no movement from winter's ice to spring's sun, no new frontiers bringing forth new possibilities. But what to say after this apology? So I've just put down my pen for a moment and looked out the window at a cat slinking through the nighttime shadows of our front yard. It's in its element, every muscle in its body tuned to the ancient nocturnal dance of the feline hunt for prey. It doesn't question its relationship to the earth. It feels the grass and dirt under its paws and knows the moon's light is a ready beacon through its nighttime journey, in tune with nature and with all things. That cat's natural harmony with you, Earth, feels like everything my clumsy words are trying to say. Somewhere in our collective memory, in the knowing of our bones, must be this truth, that we love this earth. Outside my window, this cat, this night walker, this midnight trickster, cavorts with the moon and the awakening insects, opossums and raccoons, all those who travel under the cloak of night, singing a shared song with the earth at the end of its day. A song older than any one of us, a song so ancient and thrilling that we've buried its melody deep inside us. And only sometimes does it come back to us like a dream. We who remember can now begin the dream of the first glimpse of the prairie together. The moonlit dock where we first fell in love. The cat cavorting in the night. And while tapping into the sacred wonder of this great earth, has the heightened reality of a dream. We know that it is not a dream. It is a moment of awakening, a moment when we are awakened to the senses of all that is here and all that we value. This is the moment that we remember. Caring for you is not a chore. Caring for you is reconnecting to our oneness with you. It's everything. The cat outside my window has gone home and gone to sleep, and so shall I, but I will wake up, and maybe I already have.
Perhaps you too have heard this same call, this awakening to care for the earth. But before we respond to that call, I ask that we begin this reflection with another time of meditation. Let's take another deep breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Pay attention to your breath in and out. In and out. Slow down. Be here now. I invite you to close your eyes and to think of a place in the natural world. It's a specific place, a place that is important to you for some reason. Perhaps it's in the mountains or at the shore of a lake. Perhaps it is a forest or a cultivated garden. Maybe it's a place you've experienced with your family. Maybe you were there alone. Again, pay attention to your breath. As you recall this sacred space, remember what is sustaining and life-giving about it. Hear the waves or the leaves rustle or the bird song. Feel that ancient connection we were just reminded of. I invite us to now speak aloud the places we have called to mind. I always call to mind Back Lake in Pittsburgh, New Hampshire. Thank you. Now offer a thought of gratitude or appreciation for where you've just visited, and return again in body, mind, and spirit to where you're sitting now. I first practiced this particular meditation in a workshop led by the Reverend Mariama White Hammond, minister of New Roots AME Church in Dorchester, and the chief of Environment, Energy, and Open Space for the city of Boston. As Reverend White Hammond explained, part of this exercise is understanding in a deeply personal way how we are connected to the earth. Jason Cook writes in his letter, "We know that wildfires, floods, hurricanes, air pollution, hotter temperatures are becoming more frequent. This truth is difficult enough, but it frames environmental suffering as a distant and abstract phenomenon. Yet we are each connected to the earth in a distinctly unique way. Part of our awakening towards stewarding the planet is recognizing that many of these very specific places are endangered." But perhaps I am, as they say, preaching to the choir. Whenever I ask members or friends of WUS about what renews their spirits, an almost universal response is nature. In this faith, affirmation of the sacred quality of the natural world has its roots, pun intended, in the Transcendentalist movement, and is currently reflected in the seventh principle of Unitarian Universalism: respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. In this congregation, we have named environmental responsibility as 1/3 of our core reasons for being, along with spiritual growth and social transformation. This gratitude for the earth and commitment to its care is reflected in the workshops we lead, the organizations we serve and fund, and as demonstrated again today, the hymns we sing and the messages we proclaim. The earth is tired. And we've honored this commitment by seeking to walk the talk by steadily and quietly reducing carbon emissions from our building. I say we, but the primary leader of this effort has been Chuck Kewen, organizing leaders within the congregation, finding resources, researching technical options, and seeking public funds to empower us to do such things such as install solar panels on our roof and switch out our lighting for low energy options, leading to a 40% decrease in usage. Let's pause and try that applause again. A 2019 assessment by Massachusetts Interfaith Power and Light revealed that the Winchester Unitarian Society has, in the evaluator's words, done an excellent job reducing its carbon footprint since 2004, beating the goal of the 2008 Global Warming Solutions Act of a 25% reduction by 2020. In these ways, and due to Chuck's creativity, commitment, and organizational skills, WUS has been far ahead of other communities just beginning to travel this path. For this, we should be deeply grateful to Chuck and his leadership and all those who've worked with him, and proud of how these efforts model to other congregations ways to move forward. The challenge we face, though, is that so much of the society we live in depends on the use of fossil fuels. Complete operational divestment from systems that produce carbon emissions is very difficult and expensive. For an institution like a congregation to function as a fossil fuel abolitionist is to make a bold statement about its collective commitment to the earth and principles of sustainability. If we were to become carbon neutral, we'd be making a profoundly countercultural stance. This was going to be the point in my reflection where I share with you a proposed statement for the congregation to endorse. Earlier this year, a statement proclaiming our intention to become carbon neutral in a relatively short period of time was signed by enough members to come before our governing board for an eventual vote by the congregation. Since environmental sustainability is a core value of our community, I understand why this statement was endorsed. But as others reviewed the statement, questions and concerns arose. A leader in environmental justice named the reality that carbon neutrality doesn't really exist. To seek such a mythical state would set us up for inherent failure. The deadline for coming as close as we can to carbon neutrality is unrealistic. Technical suggestions countered perspectives by others with different technical expertise. I will spare those who lived through it and those who did not the details, but the short version is that many conscientious, committed, intelligent, and caring people could not come to agreement about what should come before the congregation. Of greater concern is the truth that many feelings were hurt and relationships fractured or broken in the process. A tentative meeting to work through these philosophical and interpersonal differences has been canceled, giving everyone time to slow down and consider where to go from here. How interesting it is to be in a position where everyone agrees on the objective, no one is a climate change denier, but we can't move forward. But considering the ambition of such a project and the nature of humans to disagree, being in this place is not surprising. This is often what happens when people take risks. Where we are is a symptom of trying to do hard things. We can do hard things. This is a motto of another congregation, First Church in Sterling. I've always appreciated this reminder that individuals and communities can change the world, even when making these changes is far from easy. Think of the civil rights movement, grounded not just in the singular charismatic leader of Martin Luther King Jr., but in the Black church, and not one singular Black church, but a consortium of different congregations partnering with secular organizations and communities of other traditions to hold their racist public systems accountable. Do you think they all agreed on language, on strategy, on timing? In preparation for this Sunday, I've been living with both the statement, we can do hard things, and the question, how do we do hard things? Or more specifically, how do we do hard things in a way that brings us together? This inspired me to reach out to a colleague, the Reverend John Gibbons, recently retired from a long tenure serving our neighboring congregation, First Parish in Bedford. If you're unfamiliar with this congregation, they are the creators of the bumper sticker affixed to my door proclaiming, well-behaved churches rarely make history. As this suggests, they have an activist reputation, making bold decisions, doing hard things, to advance their values in the world. One story from their history is particularly relevant. First Parish Bedford sought to install solar panels on their roof. As their building is situated in the town's historic district, they needed permission from the Historic Commission. Their request was narrowly rejected by the commissioners. In response, First Parish Bedford sued the town. Making things even more complicated, Reverend Gibbons was a plaintiff, and an elected town official who was also a member of the congregation was a defendant. After a 3-year process, the congregation prevailed, and in a very short period of time, they installed the solar panels. Many of us are perhaps more familiar with Bedford's decision to become a Level 1 sanctuary congregation, agreeing to house an undocumented immigrant during the height of the Trump administration's antagonism of migrants. We here at WUS voted to be a Level 2 congregation, supporting Bedford's commitment by companioning their resident, Maria, in shifts, running errands, and donating towards renovation of their building to meet code for residency. I, like many of you, slept many a night in their RE classrooms during their time of active sanctuary ministry. According to John Gibbons, these hard things were accomplished not through ministerial direction, but member motivation and the community encouraging and educating each other. In his words, he simply prepared the soil to help new things grow, regularly reminding them that there's nothing we cannot do. Bylaws and governance had their place, but their actions were driven by the passion of their members. Reverend Gibbons added that the critical thing is, in the words of Adrienne Marie Brown, to move at the speed of trust. They could not do what they sought to do unless they were closely connected and in general agreement. He shared one example of how they prioritized connection that inspired me. When their congregation voted on becoming a sanctuary church, one member voted against it. She said she was not philosophically opposed, but she didn't have the confidence that the congregation was up to this ambitious goal. The community later gave her a Profile in Courage Award for her willingness to be a lone dissenting voice. Gibbons also reminded me that resistance is a symptom of success, or as it's often said, and here I paraphrase for pulpit-friendly language, learn to hear the sound of the stuff hitting the fan as applause. If you are new to the Winchester Unitarian Society, perhaps you're wondering if this is a sermon or a PowerPoint presentation on current congregational politics. This morning, I'm reminded that the need to do hard things to restore the earth and beyond far exceeds the circle of this community. Families and workplaces and neighborhoods and cities and nations need to do hard things to move towards greater well-being if there is to be a future worth living for any of us. And change is within our grasp, but it begins with building connections and trust. The description of today's service said that the conversation about making our building carbon neutral begins in a public way this morning. It begins in the same way a long hike or marathon begins, with preparation, with assessing our resources and where to build our strength. In this situation, it is spiritual resources of candor, patience, and vulnerability we need to consider and how to create environments where these ways of relating can flourish. And while warrants, statements, and documents have their place, and email has utilitarian benefits, the kind of connecting and communicating I'm imagining is in-person, face-to-face relating. As another colleague would say, we need to move from transactional to authentic relationships. Adrienne Maria Brown also reminds us that connections in communities are often broad and wide. To make change possible, connections must be narrow and deep. And this means connecting with people with whom we disagree and maybe don't even like. The church I mentioned before, First Church in Sterling, who gave us today's reflection title, I understand that within their membership, they have people who are ardent progressives and someone who participated in the January 6th insurrection, and everyone in between. In order to be in community, they had to learn how to love across difference. But loving across difference is the primary spiritual practice in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, also called living together in covenant. In the old-timey ableist language, to be in covenant with one another is to faithfully walk together in the spirit of mutual love. I believe that it is not just divestment from fossil fuels that is countercultural, but putting relationships first over tribe or political identity or the delicious experience of winning an argument or being right. We can do hard things. But before we approach the hard thing of taking the next step towards carbon neutrality, the hard thing we need to do is to transform how we relate to one another. If we know we've caused harm, we need to take responsibility for it, and if the intention is genuine, to apologize. If we've been harmed, I'm hopeful we can find the willingness to be open to meaningful amends and trying again. We began this reflection with a meditation considering a sacred place in nature worthy of our commitment and care. Each service, the first words I say are, we come to this sacred place, made more sacred in this moment by the presence and attention of each and every one of us. This is a reminder and a proclamation and an affirmation that each one of us, every single one of us, is inherently worthy of love and belonging, of collective commitment and care. Every one of us holds wisdom and a gift that the world needs. Again, I say, slow down. Be here now. Doing hard things together begins with a foundation of irrevocable bonds built only through the careful work of trust. Our building, our beautiful building, houses our most precious resource, our people. Let us do the hard thing of recalling the deep humanity of one another through speaking our truths in love and listening and moving forward from there.
Our weekly offering is an opportunity of dedication, an invitation to live our values through acts of generosity. And in this way, the offering is a spiritual practice, a collective affirmation of our shared values and commitment to the mission of this liberal religious congregation. This morning, we share our gifts with Better Future Massachusetts, whose mission is to build a diverse, powerful, and democratic grassroots movement that will drive society to address climate change and its devastating effects, advancing a fair and fast transition beyond coal, oil, and gas toward an economy powered by renewable energy that equitably benefits all people. Here are the different ways you can donate. Those in the sanctuary may give cash, checks, or donate electronically. Text to the number in your order of service or visit our website under the Giving page. If you are visiting for the first time, either in person or online, you are our guest. In addition, in-person attendees, can find a physical visitor card in the pew racks in front of you. Please complete it and put it in the collection plate. And information about how to give online and how to complete a virtual visitor card will soon be shared with live stream attendees on their screens. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
Sound of
Those who wish to do so are invited to join me in reciting our shared affirmation. We gather not for ourselves alone, but to use our common power to build the beloved community within and beyond these walls. We create and reaffirm this covenant this day to make justice flourish, to practice compassion amidst difference, and to embody transformative love. Now please rise in body or spirit to join in singing hymn number 1064 in the Teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home.
There is a power at work in the universe, but it works through human hands, not made by human hands. It is a creative, sustaining, and transforming power, and we can trust that power with our lives and with our ministries. It will sustain us whenever we side with justice, whenever we choose the courage to trust, whenever we take a risk. Trust in that power. We are together held by that power. Go in peace. Amen.
Let's say out loud together the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. This service has ended. Let's continue our conversation in the Sims room over coffee, and then later on downstairs in Metcalf Hall for the soup jar project. Thank you.